The megastars, the millionaires, the masterminds. Seriously wealthy, glamorous and influential. They are the rich and famous. Tycoon, a wealthy and powerful business person or industrialist. These people are here to show us how it's done. Steve Jobs, co-founder, chairman and CEO of Apple Inc., formerly known as Apple Computers, is one of the world's most powerful businessmen. And he is sitting on a fortune of $5.7 billion. Jobs, along with Steve Wozniak, began a partnership in the 70s, which saw them create a batch of completely assembled computers, which then allowed them to begin the Apple Computer Company. The first personal computer introduced was the Apple I. Its successor, the Apple II, became a huge success, turning Apple into an important player in the computer industry. By December 1980, Steve was a multi-millionaire. As Apple expanded, Steve lured Pepsi-Cola's president away to help manage the company's growth and serve as Apple's CEO. He persuaded him by asking, "Do you want to spend the rest of your life selling sugared water? Or do you want a chance to change the world?"
Steve Jobs, the head of Apple, has managed to cultivate this mystique, this aura of coolness, which certainly a lot of people have fallen for. And if you look at the internet, there's this incredible, almost cult worship, as if he's a near religious figure holding these religious relics when he addresses the Apple fans.
After finding himself sidelined by the company he co-founded, Steve sold all but one of his shares in Apple and created another computer company, Next Computer. But in the mid-90s, Apple announced that it would buy Next for over $400 million. This gave Steve his beloved company back. With the success of the company, Apple branched out and introduced the iPod, one of the world's most popular portable music players, with over 141 million units sold. The iPod range consists of a number of different variations, with size and memory capacity being a major factor. They range from the minuscule iPod Shuffle to iPod Video, which allows you to view music videos and podcasts.
It's really home stereo reinvented, because what we see is your music is not in CDs in your cabinet anymore, it's on your iPod. And so your stereo is really ready to move to an iPod-based stereo.
Since the iPod, we have also seen the introduction of iTunes digital music software and the iTunes Store. One of the most eagerly awaited products the world was desperate for was the iPhone. Steve believes that delivering working products on time is just as important as innovation and attractive design. In the 80s, Steve purchased the graphics group, later renamed Pixar, from Lucasfilm. He paid the low price of $10 million so Star Wars creator George Lucas could finance his divorce without reducing his control of the Star Wars enterprises. Pixar, known to produce a number of successful animated films, including Toy Story and Finding Nemo, was in partnership with Disney. When this partnership was due to expire, Steve and Disney chief executive Michael Eisner failed to negotiate a new partnership. Personal hatred between the two was surprisingly to blame. With Michael being replaced, Steve was able to begin a new relationship with Disney, agreeing to purchase Pixar for $7.4 billion, making Steve the largest single shareholder of the Walt Disney Company and a member of the board of directors. Steve has been known to make it into the Guinness Book of World Records, but not for his lucrative fortune. Ironically, it's for the lowest paid chief executive officer. His current salary with Apple is $1 per year. How is he a billionaire then? By obtaining remuneration through stock instead of salary. So, in Steve's case, an apple a day keeps bankruptcy away. Hugh Hefner, one of the most admired and inspiring businessmen of our time. Men worship him and men want to be him. But who can blame them? After all, this bachelor is living the life that every heterosexual man wants to live. Sharing his home with hundreds of beauties over the years, Hugh is the founder, majority owner, editor-in-chief and chief creative officer of Playboy Enterprises. The Playboy business didn't happen overnight though. When studying at the University of Illinois, Hugh had already begun to think up some ideas for what would later become one of the most popular magazines of all time, Playboy. In a daring move by Hugh, he quit his job as a copywriter for Esquire after being refused a $5 raise. It was then Hugh embarked on a journey and the biggest gamble of his lifetime. He took out a loan and managed to raise $8,000 to launch Playboy. And the rest, as they say, is history.
When I started the magazine in 1953, almost all the men's magazines were outdoor adventure books. And my tastes were a little more sophisticated than that. And I was interested in the romantic connection between the sexes, the mating game. And I think that that's what Playboy has really been all about from the beginning. That's why, in addition to the pretty ladies, it also included good fiction, nonfiction, and lifestyle features.
Since its release in the early 50s, Playboy magazine has become one of the most successful men's magazines, still selling around 3 million copies a month in the US alone. The first issue, published in 1953, sold out in weeks, proving that this was to be a major success. Copies of the first issue are now selling for over $5,000. The biggest selling issue was in November 1972. It sold over 7 million copies. The famous Playboy logo of a rabbit wearing a tuxedo bow has become one of the most famous and recognisable logos around the world. Hugh said he chose the rabbit for its humorous sexual connotation and because the image was frisky and playful. His Playboy enterprise now includes television and internet and has given Hugh a playful fortune of over $300 million. His self-promoting image had him being known as a womanizer and party animal. He constantly has a number of girlfriends on the go all at once. Now in his older and what's meant to be wiser years, Hugh still knows how to party in style. Having spent much of his lifetime in exotic locations with women swooning over him, many a quarter of his age, Hugh decided to tone it down a bit for his 81st birthday. With a small 2-day party at his Playboy Club on the 52nd floor of the Fantasy Tower in Las Vegas. He invited a handful of guests including Paris Hilton, David Hasselhoff and Edward Norton. Not your normal party for someone in their 80s. Hugh is someone who oozes charm and charisma and seems like his only interests are of a sexual nature. But he is someone who also takes an interest in education. He has also donated millions of dollars to the University of South California's School of Cinematic Arts and also gave $100,000 to create a course titled Censorship in Cinema. Censorship in cinema sounds a little ironic for someone who promotes nude women in his magazines. Even with that though, Hugh is an inspiration to many and has certainly kick-started the careers for a great deal of young and talented women. And while living out his own fantasies, Hugh is also living the fantasies of so many others. She is one of the original 5 supermodels. From a time when models were voluptuous and curvy, Cindy Crawford strutted her stuff alongside Claudia Schiffer, Christy Turlington, Naomi Campbell and Linda Evangelista. She is one of the most desirable women of all time and has a bank account to prove it. She seems to have done it all, appearing on the cover of more than 600 magazines, including Vogue, People and Elle. Released her own exercise videos, has many endorsement deals, now runs her own company and has starred in movies opposite big-name Hollywood hotshots. She appeared in the film Fair Game opposite William Baldwin. The film was unfortunately a flop, only making around $11 million, not even gaining back a quarter of its budget. In her prime as a supermodel, Cindy was the most photographed and highest paid model in the world. Quite a change from the career she was originally aiming for. She studied chemical engineering, receiving high marks, but dropped out to pursue modelling. Seems whichever career path she embarked on, she would have been quite comfortable financially. It was estimated that by 1995, she was already worth close to $6.9 million. And by 1998, with the help of her company Crawford Incorporated, that rose to a staggering $37.7 million. She has been an ambassador for Omega watches since 1995 and has been their longest-running ambassador so far. Cindy was chosen as an ambassador for the Omega family for her fashion and style and because it fits the brand perfectly. She doesn't just appear in their advertising campaigns. She has an active involvement with their product designs and events. In 2003, Omega needed Cindy's assistance to help reposition their advertising. Using her expertise and experience, they launched their new campaign during Fashion Week in London. Cindy has created a reputation for herself as a smart and sexy businesswoman and has combined her business ventures into her own company, Crawdaddy Inc. Willing to push herself, she has received many opportunities in the fashion and beauty fields, publishing, film and television. She has explained that, in my work, I realised that Cindy Crawford is a product. I decide how to use that image. It's a business. A successful business. As a spokesperson for many companies, Cindy has been responsible for launching a number of brands. Apart from the Omega brand, she has also appeared in commercials for Pepsi. Her 1993 Pepsi commercial remains one of the most noteworthy and award-winning of all time. And she was back in 2002 for Pepsi's follow-up, Always a Classic. In her career, Cindy made history as the first modern supermodel to appear in Playboy magazine. This then led to her 6-year hosting stint on MTV's House of Style. Although not everything was peachy for this supermodel, she once complained about developing a rash and irritation from putting on and taking off up to 250 different swimsuits in one afternoon. That was probably a good thing though. She now receives multi-million-dollar endorsement deals through skincare companies. In the home and behind bars, Martha Stewart is the world's best and most profitable homemaker. She is an American icon, dividing herself between her careers of homemaker, author, editor and business tycoon. This former model and stockbroker has also made a massive impact with her popular daytime television programs. The Martha Stewart Show demonstrates cooking, interior design, gardening, crafts and other domestic duties that are performed in and around the house. A fair amount of Martha's success can be thanked from her upbringing. Her family life included a lot of home activities, with her mother teaching her and her siblings how to cook and sew. She learnt the process of canning and preserving when visiting her grandparents, and her father passed on the green thumb with his knowledge and expertise in the garden. Martha and husband Andy purchased an 1805 farmhouse in Connecticut and fully restored it. This would later become the model for the set of her Martha Stewart living program. But it was when she set up a catering business things really boomed for her.
If you were to dress up for the evening, which one of them?
Her own husband hired her to cater a major event, which in turn led Martha to meeting the head of Crown Publishing Group. He was so impressed that he asked her to create a cookbook featuring recipes and photographs from events that she hosted. It was then that the book Entertaining was released. This cookbook became a bestseller and her career skyrocketed. With her career going strong, Martha became the definitive American woman of our time. She released a truckload of books, made television appearances, and dabbled in the stock market. In the late 90s, Martha, along with her business partner, consolidated all their business ventures into a new company, Martha Stewart Living Omnimedia. Martha was the CEO, president, and chairwoman of the company. Martha Stewart Living Omnimedia then went public on the New York Stock Exchange titled MSO. Martha was the majority shareholder and had most of the control in the company and was well on her way to becoming a billionaire. Martha also had shares in a biopharmaceutical company, ImClone. This is when Martha made the mistake that landed her behind bars. Martha, along with many other shareholders, sold around $230,000 in shares after being given hints that stock value was going to fall dramatically. It was this decision by Martha that landed her in prison for 5 months, followed by another 5 months of home confinement, which required her to wear an ankle bracelet, and 2 years probation for lying about a stick sale, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice. She also had to pay a fine of $30,000.
Today is a shameful day. It's shameful for me and for my family and for my beloved company and for all of its employees and partners. What was a small personal matter became over the last 2 years an almost fatal circus event of unprecedented proportions.
Once settled, Martha agreed to step down as chairwoman, CEO, and any other official roles that would give her any authority over any public company. Even with all the bad press and misfortune Martha received, she was still making a triumphant amount of money. She still collects upwards of $2 million a year to add to her $650 million fortune. Seems life on the inside still paid off for this millionaire. She can now demonstrate how to snazzy up our number plates. Ted Turner, successful businessman and best known for his creation of the cable television network CNN, his marriage to Academy Award-winning actress Jane Fonda, and pledging $1 billion of his $3 billion fortune to the United Nations through his United Nations Foundation. Ted's media career began when he was 24. After the death of his father, he took over the Turner Outdoor Advertising billboard business, which was already worth $1 million. After successful growth of the business, Ted was able to use the firm as a local broadcasting station in Atlanta, which would later become WTBS. In 1976, he purchased the Atlanta Braves baseball and Atlanta Hawks basketball teams, wanting to use them to provide sporting programs for his television station. Being a more hands-on owner of his baseball team, Ted once said, "Managing isn't that difficult. You just have to score more runs than the other guy." It's quotes like these that gave Ted the nickname of the Mouth of the South. His cable news network, better known as CNN, the first 24-hour cable news channel, was created in 1980 and changed news media, with the coverage of the Challenger space shuttle disaster in 1986 and the Persian Gulf War in 1991. Ted figured that for people like him who didn't get home in time to see the news, that CNN was to become a modern, all-news, all-the-time program. It was around this time that he met and married his third wife, actress Jane Fonda. Their marriage lasted 10 years. Not only is Ted a successful businessman, he has found success as a yachtsman. Sailing since an early age, Ted has competed in Olympic trials and has won 2 major sailing events. In 1977, he won the America's Cup for the United States as the skipper of the yacht Courageous, and won the 1979 Fastnet race in the yacht Tenacious. Ted also had a major involvement in the 2003 film Gods and Generals, the prequel to the film Gettysburg. After the miserable performance of Gettysburg at the box office, director Ronald F. Maxwell was unable to get the go-ahead for Gods and Generals. That was until Ted stepped in. He provided the entire $60 million budget.
When I started it 3 years ago, I was worth billions, and now I'm just worth a few $100 million.
Did you get paid for your cameo?
I think I did, $600. That's what they said.
He also had a cameo appearance in the film, playing Colonel Waller T. Patton. Many of the extras for the film agreed to work without pay in exchange for Ted donating $500,000 to Civil War battlefield preservation. Could have worked out cheaper to pay the extras though. Ted can also take credit for the creation of Turner Network Television, which then purchased such companies as Hanna-Barbera Productions, and Turner Foundation, which focuses more on philanthropic grants for the environment and population. It was at this time that Ted created the environmental hero, Captain Planet. This Time magazine's Man of the Year has also been involved in a merger with Time Warner, where he was vice president until 2006 and the major stockholder. Ted is America's largest private landowner, owning approximately 2 million acres and 15 ranches. It is said his land is larger than the 2 smaller states of Delaware and Rhode Island combined. It seems his bank account is too.